And it says we are online. Hey,
All
guys,
right.
how's it going tonight? Thanks for dropping by. I see we've got, how many we got here? It says we got 8.
All right.
And as I try to make sure I don't have multiple echoes going on in my ear, if you're here, drop a line in the chat. Welcome to the Truckee Gamer. That would be me, and I am sitting here with one of the busiest men I know. I don't know how he manages to do as much creative stuff as he does, but I have got sitting with me one of my fellow Star Trek Adventures creators, Mr. Al Spader. Al, why don't you say hello, introduce yourself, hype. What do you
Troy
mean?
says there's no sound.
There's no sound. That is not good. Let's see. Because you said you can hear me, and I can hear you.
We can hear each other.
And if I turn on my channel, I can hear echoes of myself.
Troy, you got us?
Are we there now, Troy?
It says he hears you now, so
awesome.
It must be good.
We like it when people can hear us. It's great. Anyway, Al, why don't you introduce yourself, plug anything, and then we will dive in.
Absolutely. How's it going? I'm Al Spader. I'm a freelance writer and system designer for tabletop role-playing games. I have been working with Star Trek Adventures for 3 years, and I published the role-playing game Sentience, along with my friends over at the Yellow Hand, who did the layout and helped me with some art and the covers. It looks like Jay's actually there in the chat, which is awesome. Jay, thank you for that. And yeah, so that's what I do. I love writing. I love designing. Currently, my I guess claim to fame is that I am the lead writer on the Federation-Klingon War Tactical Campaign. So that's the newest book that Modiphius has put up for pre-order.
All right, hold on just a second. You mean to say, technology, ain't it grand?
Are you gonna bounce between layers here?
I just want to show off a window machine. I want to. Oh, I see what the problem is. I see there are minor technical difficulties. Hold on just a moment as I had everything set up, and then I had to restart my computer, and I apparently missed something. So
yeah, the Federation-Klingon War Tactical Campaign is a new type of campaign for the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game that involves a linear parallel story that's being told alongside the USS Discovery's story. And yeah, there's the cover right there. Lots of pew-pews going on. Love to see that.
That poor ship is having a very bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's not disco. That's not disco. That's a Malachowski?
Yeah. Yeah, we very specifically didn't want to put Discovery on the cover because this story is about the players, right? In fact, the thing about this war is that the USS Discovery is gone for like 2/3 of it. So there's lots of space there for you to make the hero ship.
Oh, we like being the heroes. That's what this is all about. So, excuse me, I've known you for a while, and I know that you and I kind of share a belief in the best way to get things done in Star Trek is usually using your words and not your pew-pews. So the question that came to my mind is, how did you come to be lead writer on this? I mean, is this something that you looked at and said, oh, I must do this? Or did Jim have to twist your arm? Because, I mean, I know with Captain's Log, he kind of had to twist Michael Dismuke's arm. Michael was not sure he was the guy for that at first. So, I mean, did he have to twist your arm, or was this something you said, oh, I can do this?
So I think so. Basically, we were given those two projects at the same time were shared with us, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for people to be lead writers." Blah blah blah. And when I saw this idea, I actually immediately jumped onto it. And the reason why I did is I do love using words and talking my way through situations, but I also really love mechanics. And Jim has kind of like come to me for like creating new talents and things like that in the past.
Cool.
And so I knew this was going to be a very mechanically driven book, and perhaps adding some more layers of crunch to the game. And so I was excited to see what that would look like. Plus, I'm a big board gamer as well. And when I saw the tactical overlay, I thought of several different board games that I've played in the past, and I was like, oh, I bet you we can absolutely make this work alongside the story for the campaign. So yeah, I jumped right on board with it. It was exciting too, because I got to work with Ivan, who he actually created the tactical overlay. Ivan Sorensen, he wrote 5 Parsecs from Home and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. So he basically constructed the main framework of the overlay, sent it to us, and then I had to make it Star Trek-y. So that was a lot of fun.
Cool. I love the fact that, unlike some of the other books on the line, and I love when we give a decent introduction to things. This just jumps right into character options in about 2 pages, and I love. I was going through the species, and I love that of the half dozen species shown, 2 of them, the Enar and the Arcadians, are culturally pacifists. Was that a deliberate choice to put them in the book because it's a war book?
I mean, it was definitely so. When we were first writing down species, I think we had like 10 or 12, and we had to parse that down into species that I think had a wide array of like body shapes, facial shapes, things like that. Was really what we're going for, was for diversity. And then we saw, oh, we've got a couple of pacifist species. Let's get them in there because this is a war book, and let's see how their characters fit into that type of story. So yeah, that was that was a really, really fun thing that we were able to do when we were narrowing those species down.
Who didn't make the cut? Do you remember any of the ones that didn't make the cut?
I would have to look back at my notes. I don't remember what the original outline said, but it was a lot of just. It was a lot of random species that were like the Arcadians and the Ariolo, like that were just in the backgrounds of scenes throughout all of the movies and whatnot, because we thought we really wanted to use this book to tie together the whole century, right? Because it's one era. So with our species, most of them come from the background scenes of like the motion picture or Star Trek 4, things like that.
Right.
So we also decided that when we were creating assets, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, that we wanted to find characters that people were familiar with from the future and imagine them as part of this war. We kind of got lucky in that Mbenga in Strange New Worlds kind of started showing a lot of the impacts that the war have had on people. Because when we wrote this, Strange New Worlds hadn't even come out yet. So, so the Mbenga in this book was written with basically, the 1.5 episodes that he appears in the original series, basically.
Cool. Yeah, these could Megarites, they could arguably be said to be pacifist because they're poets. This was another thing that I really liked was the impact and the traits that could be used with in wartime.
Yeah, so like we knew right away that yes, there was going to be a lot of pew pew options, but we also wanted to make sure that this was really about characters telling stories, right?
Right.
And so that's why we went to the mechanics, like the traits and the talents and focuses, and said, all right, where do these intersect with wartime stories? And how might traits or character roles or whatever change once you become part of, a war, essentially?
Yeah. Like I've got one of my characters in a game that I'm playing is a veteran of the Dominion War, and I wish this had been available when I was working on it. I did pretty good with him, but excuse me again. I I'm real happy with a lot of these random tables too, because they've come in very handy in some of my personal plotting and planning of things.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that that those were all there. I think I've finally worn Jim down, and he is now on board with using random tables. But I think when I first started, he wasn't a huge fan. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I said, well, sometimes you got to work on a guy.
Yep.
You
So
can't always get him to agree at first. So.
one of the things that I was given permission for was to go through the systems reference document for 2D20 and to go through every other 2D20 systems core rulebook and to see what sort of wartime things are in there that we could possibly adapt. And a lot of those came into the wartime talents section. Like especially when you think about Octung Cthulhu, it's set during a war, so they had a lot of talents in there that were a lot more focused on combat, and they were a lot more focused on diplomacy than what we had in Star Trek Adventures. So I was able to port some of those in because let's face it, during wartime, diplomacy is every bit as important, if not more important, than being able to go pew pew.
Indeed, yeah, that's. But I had something in here I was looking for, and my little ADHD brain has decided no, we're not gonna do that. So we'll stop here for a minute because you were the one who did the roles and such in the player's guide, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we went through and we did the basic bridge rolls in the player's guide, and did like a deep dive into each of them. And my mission from Jim was to tell a story about why each role is the best role to take. And when I was given this job, I was like, hey, there are a ton of roles that exist across all the different books that have to do with war. So what if we pull them all together and we give them a little deep dive? So so you see like a couple of the admiralty roles from the I forget which book that's from. It must be the Command Division.
Yeah, I think that's from Command Division.
Yep. And then there's the tactical squads from the Operations Division. There's like 6 different roles there. I used some of the non-aligned roles that were in the player's guide. Did a little bit of a deep dive into them. And I think there might have been 1 or 2 even introduced in the Rules Digest that I was able to dive into as well.
But yeah, I stopped here because for a couple of reasons. A, I love her.
Yep.
It's like, oh wow, not all Andorians have long straight hair.
Yeah, and the quick build right there, like if you're a new player,
that's the thing I was about to bring up was that quick build. Those things are, when I first saw those in the players, guys, like, oh, I love these things. because anything to help, especially newer players. But even some experienced players have for whatever reason have issues with character generation in STA. So I'm glad we've got this kind of
Right. And sometimes for new players, the life path system can lead to analysis paralysis. So this narrows things down for you. All right. Whatever you can, make control your highest attribute, and make your presence your second highest. Like, try to go that route instead of just rolling randomly the whole way through.
Yeah. But here's one of those, some of those from the here's from Command. I remember that one. But I enjoyed the pretty much all of this. I loved what came down for the rolls. I love the fact that we didn't introduce a whole lot of new gear. We just found fun things to do with what we had.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. Basically, this section, the weapons and gear section, is Aaron Pollier going crazy with things that you can do with weapons. And
Aaron going crazy with tech? No.
They're just hilarious and terrifying. And he did a great job. I think the biggest thing that's in here is the new weapon delivery system, which is fixed. Basically, it's mounted forward like a railgun or something like that. It's potentially more powerful, but you have to get into position to do it. So
that's cool. We're glad you like it, Troy.
And then I think he threw something in there about like torpedoes that released phaser beams or something like that.
Oh, I don't even remember everything. I've just been kind of going through
Hot loading school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the antimatter pump phaser. There it is. Yeah. So good stuff here.
Because a torpedo going off isn't enough.
Yep.
But yeah, I enjoyed the where'd it go? I may not have gotten there yet.
Torpedoes and war crimes, of course.
Yeah. Oh, you need to deal with that because eventually the war will end, and sometimes people are gonna get held accountable. If that had been, our Lorca doing some of the things that the Lorca on the show did.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he'd been standing before a tribunal.
Right.
Here we go. This is one of the things that I started really looking into with my Dominion War ex-Starfleet field medic.
There were two main things that I think that Michael Duxbury, who wrote this section, was really thinking about here. And the first one is, Benjamin Sisko in Deep Space Nine, right? He lost his wife during the Dominion War. Yeah. Very dramatic, right? And then, of course, Jean-Luc Picard Locutus left some pretty heavy scarring that we saw even through Picard season 3. So I think that this system, that was really what we were thinking about when putting this in the book. And this kind of like put me in the mindset of how we can tell a war story while still focusing on characters. So if you see something traumatic, you can suffer a scar, which is basically a permanent complication that you are always suffering from. GMs can force you to deal with those scars from time to time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, like you said, Sisko and Picard 7.
Mm-hmm. And then we really lucked out with, as I said, Strange New World season 2, where we get to see Mbenga like having
and Ortegas.
Like they having some serious scars from the war, right? Like still dealing with it. So I was glad to see that they are starting to accept that this war causes harm to people, that lingers for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they're able to talk about that on the show now.
All right. Let's see here. Here's a. If I can get my. So here's a question from Brian. We haven't got to the systems yet, but it's a good question anyway.
Yeah, Brian. So Aaron Paulier did the Shackleton Expanse design tables and whatnot. He also designed the systems in this book. I think he finagled it a little bit because he wanted it to be very specific to regions that would be close to where the war zone was. So I don't know that he followed it to a T, but he designed that system for generating a star system. So it was probably in the back of his head when he was doing the two for this book. Good question.
Thanks, Brian. So, I love my little ADHD brain. Okay, this is the part that is going to suck for some people but it's a war book and it's going to happen. Was this another one of Aaron's?
I don't remember who wrote this particular section. There is a little bit about casualty reports. I believe it's in the Game Master Guide. It might be the Player's Guide.
Yeah.
But really what we were trying to do with this section was to say, this should not be something that is brushed off to the side. This is something that should be part of the main story. That's why specifically in here, we say that, if a character dies on the ship, name that character. Don't just say we lost 2 people in engineering. Name them, right? Give them names as though they were supporting characters so that your characters can have an attachment, to the people that they served with, right? Or that they worked with.
Right. I appreciate the emphasis on safety tools. There's a disclaimer way up at the very front, which I had never thought we'd see in an STA book.
Yeah, that was I insisted. I said we should have a content warning at the front of this book talking about the themes that are running throughout some of the missions that are in here. And then on top of that, Alison Saib developed all the safety tools, which you'll see in a few minutes, where basically she said, they took a lot of the common safety systems that are out there and kind of made them a little bit more Trekky. And we even have like a content checklist in the back of the book for you to fill out, a safety checklist to see what you're into or what you don't want to do.
Yeah, that I was very happy to see that when it came up. It's like, okay, there, because I'm a vet. I was this close to going to Desert Shield and Desert Storm. As it is, I had several people I knew in Saudi during that one, and that one was kind of important to me when I saw, okay, we're going to war book. We need to actually talk about war, and it gets ugly.
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard, and I think having those conversations at your table is really, really important. But also at the same time, you need to establish those rules and that trust in your session zero, saying that these are the topics that we're going to be broaching and we're going to be discussing. And if you're not down with that, that's fine. Just let me know, and we will kind of let it happen off screen or whatever.
Yeah, I it's been long enough ago that but that it would I'd be okay with most anything at this point, but I appreciate that it's there, and if this had happened, if something like this had come up, 15 years ago when we were doing, when Decipher was still, the last game standing.
Yep.
It might have been a completely different, because I've mellowed since then.
Right.
Let's see what we got here. Darren loves the book so far. He loves the picture of the SNW Enterprise on 198.
One cool thing, Darren, that we were able to do with this adventure was, or this book, I should say, is that each person that wrote an adventure in the book got to write an art brief for the first time of what they would like to have in the mission for them. I think I got to write 6 or 8 art briefs, which was like totally cool, like went all over the place. At one point in the book, you'll see like a protest with people holding the sign say Klingons go home. That's specifically from an art brief that I wrote. And it was really cool to see those come to fruition.
Let's see here. Daniel thinks an interesting campaign would be all diplomatic corps. I actually kind of agree with him. That might be interesting.
Yep. And now imagine all diplomatic corps doing diplomatic things, but for some reason, the diplomatic ship is the closest one to do this one tactical thing that that the Federation needs, and now you're all diplomats and you have to go complete like an actual pew pew war mission. How cool of a story is that? I mean, that's kind of what they did with Discovery, right? Discovery was a science ship, right? They were all science nerds on there. They happened to have a tool that was very handy for the war, and so they got thrust to the front lines.
Yeah, that was and that was one of the things I loved in the first season. I was very up and down on the first season. There was a lot in there that I'm going, what the heck were they thinking? But there's a bunch of stuff that would come through, and the fact that you had a ship that was, 60% scientists.
Yep.
It's like, wait, what the heck are we doing here?
Yeah. So, let's go to that for a minute, because I think, there are people who like Discovery in general is a very polarizing topic among Star Trek fans, right? The Discovery. I think it's no secret that this Discovery campaign guide was not as well purchased as, say, Utopia Planitia, because a lot of people kind of like have this bias against anything that is Discovery. Same thing with the Captain's Log Discovery cover. It's probably the one that sold the least, if I had to guess. That's the one I have too, by the way.
I gotta stand up for the underdog.
So, which is fine and good. Like what Trek you want, but I think that you would like, if you've been following Star Trek Adventures long enough, that we are going to put so much content into each of these books that you can use that has nothing to do with the picture or the name on the cover, that it's worth the price alone. Like Lower Decks, like if you didn't find Lower Decks funny or you didn't enjoy Lower Decks, I guarantee you there's still 20 things in that Lower Decks campaign guide that you can find and use. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we tried to do the same thing here. We tried to provide just a ton of options for players and game masters to use, including very optional rule systems to make games feel more tactical, which actually also people coming from other games might enjoy just a little bit more.
Yeah, that's something I've always enjoyed about the line, not just as a writer there, because most of what I do is character work. So I'm in. I got stuff with all the series, but I love the fact that so many of the books are way more than the covers. I wish more people would see past that.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to not like something, but like this book, I would say Discovery might be mentioned in on 10 pages of the book, and that's about it. Like we have canon events from season 1 that weave
Yeah.
through the story. But the missions themselves, the USS Discovery doesn't show up. Like it's gone. Even the final mission, it's super epic, but Discovery is on like way over at Kronos, while you're trying to defend Earth. So like it's during the Star Trek Discovery era, so to speak. But I would not necessarily refer to this as a Star Trek Discovery book.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And I like to emphasize that when I'm discussing things. The people are always going, "Well, we need information on the 23rd century," and I'm one of them. I grew up original series, animated series, the TOS cast films. That was my trek growing up until I was in my 20s when TNG came out, and I'm like, well, have you got the Discovery campaign guide? I'm not real wild about this. Well, there's this huge, you know, pile of 23rd century things that don't have a spore drive. And I mean, I know people are going. I know people are very adamant about that thing. I hate the spore drive. It's like, well, ignore it. Don't use it. Don't get on Discovery and
Darren. Any chance?
oh,
Any chance? Yes.
any
Uh,
chance of seeing a time ship source? Oh,
so
never
I
say
think
never,
it's
but
yeah, I think it's like well known that Jim has said that he wants to do. He has this board of like probably 70 ideas that he wants to do someday, and I'm sure that there's something on there with time travel. Um,
oh, I
but
know there is. He's
yeah, I
talked
mean,
about it a lot. So
I never say never. The stuff that we are putting out is it's so cool, and so a lot of it's new stuff. But I'm sure that we will be looking at stuff that can be used across all eras as well.
yeah, that's high on the list of a lot of us is a time travel book. We'd love it.
I mean, you we were talking about Lug last unicorn earlier. You pull out all our yesterdays. I mean, 90% of what's in there is not mechanical. It's all flavor, and you could absolutely adapt that to STA. I bet if you needed to.
Oh, that part would be easy. It's all the additional time travel stuff that's come up since since basically since Voyager ended, because
Yeah,
the
that's fair,
last unicorn didn't include anything
right?
about from Enterprise. They couldn't. Wasn't there.
Yeah, or Kelvin or anything like that. So,
Yeah. Oh, there's a can of worms.
Darren, I still haven't started my FASA collection yet. That's next on my list. In fact, I was at a con this weekend that had a bunch of used RPGs, and I was hoping to start then. I actually watched a lot of the tactical box set that FASA put out when writing this book, to try to get the feel for how did ship combat work, and I actually played a bunch of Starfleet battles as well, while trying to figure out how this book was going to work, and what I could do to adapt to the 2D20 system.
And you survived with your sanity intact, more or less.
Yep. I mean, I love playing new games all the time. So like, this was an excuse to say, oh, I've got an old Starfleet Battles box set that's been sitting on my shelf for 15 years. Let's pull it out and try it. I think I got it at a yard sale for $3 a long time ago.
Oh wow,
Yep.
that ain't a bad deal.
Nope.
All right.
So while we're still going through, in the Game Master section, we do talk about how to implement the overlay, but I really want to talk about the optional rules that we've put into the book, because I think that some of these optional rule sets, I've already talked with people. They're like, "Oh, this is just going to be a full-time rule for me all the time, not even like just when there's a war." So I think that's kind of cool.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see. Running the campaign. We can get into that in a minute. They're the star systems he was talking about. Technical difficulties. Translation. I can't type real well tonight. So.
I've never even heard of those, Darren. You'll have to send me the links.
Federation Commander I've heard of, but
Starmada? I've not. I play Star Wars Armada.
I mean, I know Federation Commander is like a simpler SFB from Amarilla Design Bureau, but I don't think I've heard of Klingon Armada.
Yeah. PM me the links on Facebook, Darren. I'll look into those. I'll download them.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, Troy, a lot of people coming in from, or I was hoping that this book would bring some people in that really loved FASA, because I tried to really get the FASA feel in a lot of the optional rules that I was able to get into the book.
Here we go.
So the first couple of optional rules are how to play the campaign overlay from a different picture, right? If you want to play as admirals instead of Starfleet, if you want to play as Klingons instead of Starfleet, and then if you want to play like independents, like if you want to play Harry Mudd, how you could use the tactical overlay to do war profiteering. So that's kind of fun.
What are some of the ones that they are saying is going to be permanent? What are some of the ones that people are telling you about?
Keep going. Keep scrolling
down.
down.
Right. Scrolling.
So there's from the Klingon point of view, keep scrolling down. So we're going to be talking about like rules that you can use in your game. So first of all, reactions. That's something from the 2D20 SRD. It could be something that you want to use. Basically, get one reaction per turn. Things like diving for cover. You can use your making something as an opposed roll, like melee combat would be a reaction. Things like that. If you get somebody commands you to do something, that you have to use a reaction to do it. Things like that. That one, not a ton of people have been really chatting about. Some of the initiative variants, especially the ship initiatives. So this is if you're coming from other games, like say Pathfinder or D&D, you're used to rolling for initiative.
Right.
So you can either have a set initiative score to say who goes first all the time. You can use variable initiative scores, which is basically you roll challenge dice and see how many hits you get to determine your order. But the big one is the ships, the ship initiative, because what happens is smaller scale ships act before larger scale ships. And that's where we go back to like our FASA days and our Starfleet battles.
There we go. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are talking about this. Additionally, I made some, if your ship has some talents, it can modify your scale, essentially. The simplified multiple ship combat, that basically allows everyone that is on the bridge to actually control their own ship instead of playing their bridge role, and uses those ships as though they're NPCs. So like if it's like 6 ships on 6 ships or something like that, each one of your players can control one of your ships. You determine what their crew quality is, and that's what all their roles are made against. Scroll back up for a minute.
Sure.
Assigning ship power. This one I've heard like 5 or 6 people say we're going to use this all the time whenever we enter red alert. So power is an abstract thing in Star Trek Adventures, right? It's a
Right.
pool that gets spent to use talents and different types of tasks. Well, I've heard people saying that engineers never have anything to do when we go into combat, aside from trying to replenish the shields or, try to generate power every now and then. This basically is a power management system where your points of power get spread out over your systems. And whenever you complete a task that is assisted from a system, 1 power is removed from that system. And if ever that system doesn't have any power, the ship can't assist on those rolls. You can still attempt the task at a higher complication range, but because you're Starfleet and you can find little bits of power everywhere. So, and then I just for this, the restoring power tasks are a little bit different than the way they are in a normal system.
I haven't gotten this far in my read through yet, so some of this is like, oh.
So the power management, that's something that an engineer can always do. Redirect power, that's something that anyone can do, and like I can try to take a little bit of power from that system over to here, as opposed to power management
divert power from shields.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it's a fun little system. It works pretty well. I haven't done a full combat with it yet. Just did a couple of rolls with it, and it was really, really neat.
Great. How's your how before we get on this, just because my mind just went there, how's the Discord demonstration of the tactical overlay going?
So we just finished stage 1. So we have entered into stage 2, which is the mid-war. When you get to mid-war, you generate 6 points of interest a turn, and your complication range becomes 1920. We haven't rolled yet, but I can say that right now, 2 of our points of interest have difficulty 4 on them. So we might be in trouble.
Ouch.
Yeah. So, and weirdly,
that could be a problem.
We've been rolling a ton of character assets, not many ship assets, and only like 2 resource assets. So we have a bunch of characters that are helping out, including Kirk. We rolled a 1, so we'll see how they do.
Cool.
Yeah, I might get to it tomorrow. I'm just worried about what's going to happen after.
I wonder why.
So basically, those difficulty 4s, we're going to have to probably assign 2 assets to deal with, and then save them for last to hope that we've generated momentum on some of the easier ones. And even then, it's still going to be tough.
It's going to be dicey, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, it's great. All right, let's get off of this sidetrack. Just something you said there completely reminded me of that. It's like, oh wait.
So the next 2 sections, chases and pursuit, and then stealth and observing. These are straight out of the SRD, the system reference document. I just took them and modified them, put them in my own words, and trackified them up. And yeah, lots of people have said, how do you do chases and whatnot? And this is Nathan's concept of essentially there's 2 ways to do it. One is more abstract, and then one is using essentially it's an extended task that both players are rolling on. So the person that's trying to run away or that's trying to fly away the fastest does their bit, and then the Federation goes and tries to catch up and does their bit. So that's kind of cool. I actually use this in Sentience as well. So I think it's a fun little system. You just have to, it requires a little bit of practice. It's definitely an advanced system in the game. The stealth system, though, is pretty cool. It felt a lot to me like like a lot of like Metal Gear Solid and other types of like siphon filter video games where you're trying to sneak around. without the enemy knowing that you're there. And it gives you a lot of different options. Like stealth states is like, how well hidden are you? Are you completely hidden? Do they know that somebody's there? They just don't know where they are, or do they know where you are and now they're coming to get you? So that's the three things: hidden, detected, and revealed.
Cool.
And then different actions you do while you're stealth can be noisy or not noisy, things like that.
Great. Some of the, excuse me, like the Section 31 gear that Giorgio used in season 2, is that in here or is that in the campaign?
It's not in this one.
Because I can see where that would.
It must be in the discovery book.
Yeah, that's as soon as that's got to be in the campaign guide, so that I can see where that would definitely figure into some of the observation. That's cool. All right, let's see here.
So the campaign itself, this is like how to set up the tactical overlay, which is basically generate your initial assets, which equals the campaign pace. The campaign pace starts at 5. There are 3 stages, each divided up into 3 turns. The pace changes as you travel through the stages, and your assets are either characters, ships, or resources.
All right.
You can assign 2 assets to any location, and resources must be assigned with either a ship or a character. Resources are also only one-time use, so once you use them, they are gone. So like in the one that I'm running on Discord right now, we used the retired Starfleet officer back for one last mission. So that retired officer has completed their job and helped us succeed at a military task, which is fun.
Cool.
All assets have like a target number and then a crit number attached to them, assuming that they always have focuses, just for simplicity's sake. So when you see 11-3, 11 is their target number, 3 is their critical number.
Okay, so for instance, that 11-3 right there would be a critical range of 18, 19, and 20. I mean, 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Sorry, I was looking at. I was like, no, wait, that's complication range. I mean,
yeah, and so like, and then like there are certain things that you do that can increase the power. So if you got +1 power, it would increase both of those numbers. So it would go to a 12.
Oh,
yeah,
excellent. Yeah, see, we're definitely into the parts that I haven't got because I've really been concentrating on the character stuff, the player character things, because that's just how my brain rolls.
Yeah, the good thing about this is, like, if you look at this one right here, scroll back up. So this is the resources. Notice how it's like cunning ploy, diplomatic pressure, diplomatic aid from allies, prototype technology. Notice how none of that has anything to do with discovery. It's all fairly wide open and can be applied to all centuries. So that right there is, like, we say that we can take this overlay and drop it onto the Xindi War if we wanted, or onto the Romulan War if we wanted, or on, to the Dominion War if we wanted. And you wouldn't even have to change these resources at all. The other 2 assets, the characters and ships, you would need to make new tables for those. But that's literally the only thing that you need to do that would be different when applying this to a different war. And I give you right up there, how do you make the ship assets? Well, you go and find a stat out of any book for a ship that you want. And its medical power is its computers plus medicine, and so on and so forth. So
yeah,
those black numbers there are primary powers,
Right.
which is basically what the ship is meant to do. If you get assigned to a location and doing something that you're meant to do, you get a chance to reroll 1d20 essentially
Cool.
when you're making your check.
Awesome.
Oftentimes, things don't get assigned to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, the Thunderbird here could suddenly find themselves in a military objective, and
Yep, it can definitely happen.
was that something from Aaron? Because I know he's fascinated
yes.
with that poor dog.
Yeah, so all of these ships that you see on here are
Yeah.
either unique ships that Aaron wrote about in this book in chapter 7, I think, or their book. I believe they're taken from the Utopia Planitia book. I think.
Well, that makes sense because,
And look at some of these awesome characters. So we start with Lieutenant James T. Kirk. These are people that we see later on, but we kind of reimagined them as younger, like Lieutenant Lawrence Stiles.
Ensign J.T. Esteban.
Yep. John St. John Talbot, back when he was a consul.
Yeah.
Because in theory, all these characters were part of the war, right? Because it's all from the same 40-year period.
So I'm assuming that he becomes admiral after the Klingon War
because of the events of, right?
Yeah, that
makes sense.
I like April.
Yep. And again, many of these characters actually have stats in this book too, in the allies and adversaries section, which is fun.
All right. Great. Hold on a second.
So yeah, so
we're not boring you guys out there, are we? Because I see the chat has dried up.
Yeah.
We haven't forgotten you.
Yeah, the rest of this, I mean, we don't have to go through this piece by piece, but you then figure out what your points of interest are, and what's happening there. Again, fairly open-ended descriptions of what these are, in that it doesn't say, I think that for the most part, it doesn't say Klingon admiral's fleet has been detected. Instead, it says enemy or adversary fleet has been detected,
right?
So that you can use it in multiple different genres, centuries.
And like I say, that's part of the adaptability that we are constantly talking about online and socials. Is that, with the exception of those two tables earlier, the ships and the characters, this can go anywhere.
Right. The unresolved tactical points of interest are really important. If you are familiar with the game Pandemic or Forbidden Island or anything like that, it's the same thing. If you don't deal with a military problem, they escalate and they get more and more dangerous, which is crazy.
Yeah, I can. So, and here, this starts getting into like the adventures. So
Darren has a good question here.
Does he? Let me get back to what I was doing. Don't be hateful, machine. There we go.
Yeah. So what do you write your games in? Word, other program, design apps? So our templating for Star Trek Adventures is word-based. We, when writing for Star Trek Adventures, use Microsoft Word. Different companies use different, programs. And it really depends. Like I did all of Sentience just on Google Docs. And then my layout guy he actually uses Google Slides for layout, which is pretty spectacular.
Interesting. Yeah.
It really depends on what the company needs. And like, I know that for Star Trek Adventures, they use InDesign for layout. So you do it all in Microsoft Word, and then it's easily adaptable to InDesign, essentially. So other companies might do it differently.
Good question. Yeah.
Brian, have you actually gotten to play any of the war? Not sure if you're still there, Brian. It is really smooth. It takes my suggestion when you're trying to learn that tactical overlay, take it step by step, and don't rush. Because once you play through one turn, then by the end it all makes sense, and then it goes much more smoothly after that. So I would love to hear different people playing the games and seeing what happened. There is somebody on the Modiphius forums that is like doing like a narrative for each turn, and they posted turn 1, and it was it's really cool to read. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into this is where the adventures and the mission briefs start coming into play. So, like Battle of the Binary Stars, that is something that actually, so that's one of the scripted events, right? That
Correct. So what we've tried to do is to lay these out in order of a timeline, essentially.
Right.
So the Battle at the Binary Stars is a read aloud, essentially, or you can like give it to an individual character that might have some connection there. Incidents at Corvin 2 is your actual mission. Then we have 8 mission briefs, 2 for each point of interest type in the tactical campaign. Because one of the things you can do is you can role play one of the points of interest from the tactical overlay if you wish.
Cool.
This stage 1's a little bit interesting in that its next scripted event happens before the last mission, and that's just because we need Sarcophagus destroyed to go find its cloaking device in Scavenging Pavo. That's not too spoilery, but it gives you an idea of what that mission's all about.
Okay, so each one begins and ends with one of these script. This is something that actually happened. It's just a read aloud report.
Essentially, yeah. It could be like an admiral's coming in and giving you that report, or somebody heard it over a news broadcast, things like that. And that's just to show you where we are within the timeline as it relates to the Discovery season.
And you got, man, that is a lot of mission briefs. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, come on.
Yeah, and then we get to the mid-war, and this is the part of the war where Discovery is gone, as you can see by the Discovery disappears. We get to the enemy of my enemy, which is an interesting story because the way they told it in Discovery was that ships translocate positions. So like when the Discovery went over to the Mirror Universe, the Mirror Universe Discovery came here and they found it destroyed, but everybody thought it was the regular Discovery. So enemy of my enemy, you go to that wreckage trying to rescue the spore drive.
Which, yeah. Cool.
And then Shape of War, one of my favorite missions in this book. Michael Dismuke had a blast writing this book, writing this mission.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's a cool space anomaly diplomacy. Like it's a really cool mission that I love. And then we talk about the Starbase assaults, which is another read aloud, and then the next mission that you do in stage 3 is one of the star bases that's being attacked during the Starbase assaults.
Oh,
the siege of Starbase
cool.
Starbase 112. And then the Dying of the Light is the final mission. I'm not going to get too detailed with it, but suffice it to say that Michael Duxbury wrote this, and he wanted to make sure that everything you've done throughout the tactical overlay, everything that you've done throughout the story so far, can have an impact on how this mission goes. So characters reappear, ships reappear, assets reappear, and yeah, it's truly epic. It's truly epic.
Awesome. All right, because that's the meat of the book right there. So let's.
Yeah, and then after this, we get to just starships. Which, by the way, there's one bit of starships that we should definitely look at together.
Okay.
Which is, I think, on the first page. Aaron, first of all, gets into fleet organization, which, what's the first fleet, what's the second fleet, and that type of stuff. Which is this is Aaron Pollier, like, in his this is the best stuff that he does, is really talks about organizational development stuff for the military.
Yeah.
He's just a military buff. He does reenactments, things like that. So this is him.
How much did you? How much of his stuff did you have to cut?
I think we kept almost all of it in. We might have cut.
How'd you manage that?
An adversary or two. Well, we know, like, when you want to talk about war, you let the people who know about war talk about it, right?
Right.
So like it's something that he studies for fun. So he did first the Starfleet, and then the Klingon Defense Force, how their fleets are set up. But right there, swarm of ships. So if you are up against an enemy who uses swarms of small little scale 1 and scale 2 ships to swarm, these are the rules to make them potent threat against a larger starship.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy with these rules, and I can't wait to try them at some point on an unexpected crew.
All right, here we come to more of Aaron's handiwork. So, if I remember correctly, what you said, you were talking about it somewhere else, and you take between the campaign guide where they actually got the stat block for the space frame.
Yes.
Then
so just like we did in Utopia Planitia, we gave the frame, and then we gave a unique ship. In the Discovery Guide, we give the frames for all of these, but we don't give a unique ship. So Aaron got to go through and make unique ships for each one of these. And like Daedalus, we already have a unique ship in Utopia Planitia, but he wanted to write a new one here. The goal, of course,
I was about to ask that. So.
Yeah, to get 20 ships that we could use as assets and get them all in this book.
And is this part of the art we got from STO or
I'm assuming so.
Online? Yeah. All right. Just boom.
So yeah, so you'll notice all of the classes, but of course, all the stories that are written are just so much fun, and Aaron puts a lot of thought into them.
Yeah, I enjoy reading through a lot of these things because the Cygnus, I recognize that name.
Yeah, notice that's the scout type, by the way, because we're not allowed to use what the scout type actually is.
Yeah, we can't use the Hermes class or the Saladin or anything like that. It's terribly unfortunate, but understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't even put a picture. Cowards.
We're not allowed to.
Oh, man. Well, now that we've got Strange New Worlds, they've got one that looks remarkably like it. remarkably like it. On there's the Enterprise.
So this is the Vulcan Academy research facility, which is attacked in the Starbase mission, which is kind of cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then we do the same for Klingon ships.
I was about to ask. I don't even try to pronounce the Klingon ship names. So.
Well, what's cool is like, you know, if you are running a Klingon campaign, you could easily, you know, convert this and put it from a Klingon point of view. So now you got
yeah. No, I think it's great there. I did Klingon on Duolingo for like a year, and it's like, okay, I can tell somebody. I used to be able to tell somebody that they'd drunk somebody under the table, but the ship names and okay, this is pronounced like this and this is kind of pronounced like that, and I'd be practicing, and my wife would be going, "Are you all right?" It's like, I just got to generate enough phlegm to pronounce.
Yeah.
I envy people who can, pronounce Klingon effectively. It's hi. Our entire purpose as a ship is to ram into you.
Yeah, I think we got 2 of those in here actually, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, all in all, I think it's a pretty spectacular book.
Oh, those are yeah. Just just the heck, just the ship things are.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
And then we've got Commodore
There's
April.
Robert April. There's Nancy Hedford.
Back before she got sick.
Yep.
I remember seeing him in an episode.
Yeah, we got Robert Fox in there.
Yeah. St. John Talbot. I like that Mako's kind of make a return appearance. It makes sense for the
yeah, I mean, and when you were watching Strange New Worlds, you kind of saw a Mako unit, even though they didn't call them Makos.
But I said this is, from a GM standpoint, this is just killer. And you take the same section out of the campaign guide, and you just got.
Yeah, another thing that I did too is somewhere in here in the Game Master section, I went through and I went through the campaign guide and looked at all the mission briefs and missions there and said, hey, if you need more content, you can adapt the missions from the campaign guide as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm going to review this to modify the Blue Sun mission. Ooh.
That
could be interesting. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Interesting. That's very cool. So let's see. I don't know why I clicked off that view, but
so yeah, this is the book. It's
yeah.
We've got some trackers in here for you to help. I would just say print off the cards online. Yeah, oh yeah, the safety checklist.
And you say Allison did this one?
Yes, Allison was on top of it. And I love that it's like always okay, yellow alert, red alert. So yellow alert means it's okay if it's done off screen. Red alert is I don't want to have descriptions of dismemberment.
Yeah. No, that's it. This is an incredible piece, especially for something like this. So let me. Yeah, I jumped off that too soon. There. Now we've finished. All right. Which was your favorite part to do?
Option.
I mean,
I love the optional rules. Like, to me, adding. Nathan has done so well with the rule set already that there's not a lot you can do to fix it and to make it better. Um,
yeah.
Play testing the campaign overlay and going back and forth with Ivan was really cool. Just because, like, I'm flattered to even talk to the guy because 5 Parsecs from Home is so good.
It's that's a great that's a great game.
But being able to come up with my own rules to help the game that people will use, like the simplified mass combat, that's not mine. That I actually got from the Homeworld role-playing game. But
Right.
the power distribution system, that is all mine. The swarms of ships, that's all mine. And I feel like they work in the game. So that is something that I'm really proud of.
Understandably so. I can't speak for Al, Darren, but you're more than welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So Troy, I can say that the tactical overlay should I mean everything in first edition is compatible with second edition. It's how many degrees of compatibility do you need to do and how much work do you need to do? And I think a majority of this book should, for the most part, be very compatible with 2E. For the most part.
We can't talk too much about 2E, because I don't know very much about it, and 2, we've got NDAs, and I said don't talk about it yet. We can
Right.
point you to the mailing list sign up, which the link for that is in the description.
Yeah, as soon as
And
we're allowed, like they're kind of trying to tease out the information, and it'll happen over the coming months, because there's a lot to be really excited about for 2E in general, and I think that once you start seeing the changes that have been made, everybody will be able to take like a deep sigh of relief, um, so that's the best we can do right now. I wish I could tell you more, but we really can't. It should pretty easily transfer over, though.
right, hold on a second.
In fact, the tactical overlay itself, I would argue, can be removed from this book and played in any game. I was actually just thinking about how to use it for the Marvel Multiverse RPG to do the Kree Skrull War.
Ooh. In case you're wondering, this is the cover. We are allowed to talk about that.
Yep.
This here. So this image that you've been seeing all over socials. This is the actual front cover with obviously without the logos and such. But I love going through here that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 different uniforms and a civilian. He looks like a civilian hiding in the back corner there.
Sure does. Yeah,
But
it's a really well composed cover. I'm excited. I want to see it with the words on it so bad.
I would love to see the logo, see how everything balances out. But yes, we are allowed to talk about that. We are in fact encouraged to.
Yeah. Oh, Daniel, that's a great question. With this book done and no spoilers, what's your dream book to write or co-write for STA? What's yours, Patrick?
I would love to do something either with the films, or if we had the chance, if we had enough supporting material, I'd love to do something with the Lost Era between the beginning of Generations and the launch of the Enterprise B and the launch of the Enterprise D. There's that 60 years in there where we know about 4 things that happened.
Yeah.
We know that there's a Federation Cardassian war. We know that Narendra 3 happens. That's about it.
Yeah,
For what we
there's a couple of novels, but
yeah, and there have been little bits and pieces of things in there. We know that Jean-Luc Picard went to the academy in that time. We know that from some of the background material in Picard season 2 that you couldn't see until Dave Blast put it online, that he served under Nyota Uhura.
Right.
I would love to do something with that. And I've never considered myself a big fan until Picard, but I'd love to do something with the Romulans. Most of the big name Romulans in that first season, both of the big names, I wrote those. I did Elnor, I did Narek.
Yeah.
And I had a blast, especially with Narek, because it's like, what can I put in here? Because I love the co-op Milot. I love some of the stuff they've shown us. I've started to get into with my captain's log. I've started getting into the 32nd century. And I'd love to explore that. I'd love to explore reunification between the Vulcans and the Romulans.
Absolutely.
When it stopped being Vulcan and became Navarre, I would love to do something with that. And I've been yammering. It's your turn.
This is going to be weird. All right. So first things first, I think it would be really cool to write Enterprise Season 5. Having just finished the series, like a follow-up to Terra Prime, a follow-up to all of this stuff, I think would be really fun to write. That I don't think will ever necessarily get its own book or anything like that, just because there's not enough information. We don't like making things up whole cloth. I think I would love to take the resources from Star Trek Online and to put together some, like, I love fluidic space. I would love to do like the fluidic space campaign guide or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be like a dream. But I think I didn't get to put my fingers into the Shackleton Expanse. I was brought on as a writer after that. I would love to do another full creative campaign that us writers get to do. That would be on par with the Shackleton Expanse book. I think that would be feasible, and I think that it would be a lot of fun to design. I've got a couple of ideas.
Yeah, that would be neat.
What some antagonists could be and things like that. I would love to do that. So that would be probably my most realistic dream. I don't think I'll be getting a fluidic space campaign guide anytime soon.
Well, Jim can't get his Packlet source book either, so it's like
maybe we go.
We all have our crosses. I've known Jim for 20 plus years. we met back during the Decipher days on TrekRPG.net.
Yeah, I think Troy, that STO would be an awesome thing for Star Trek Adventures, because it does have a pretty big cult following, and I think we could bring a lot of new players on board with that.
I think that'd be a great thing, because just because of the symbiotic relationship we developed with Thomas Maroney and some of the other guys over at STO.
Yeah. And with IDW, like the new Star Trek comic book series with the Day of Love crossover has been spectacular. Like that in the Defiant series.
They got so much good stuff going on.
I would love to bring that into STA at some point. they're still telling their story, so it's we would obviously wait for that story to be done, but that would be a really cool thing to do as well.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Darren, that behind me is not my resources. That's all my non-Star Trek adventure stuff. My resource here, I'll show you my resources. I'm going to move my camera, but just to the left of my computer, you'll see my Borg cube, my Star Trek adventure stuff, my other Star Trek stuff. You'll notice the technical manuals there. And then down here is all my lug stuff and whatnot. So all my Star Trek stuff is right here, so I can reach it right next to my computer. All the stuff back there is the non-Star Trek stuff.
That's still a very impressive gaming wall you got going on there, man. Is that a model?
Yeah, I mean, it helps
back there.
What's that?
Do I see a model of the Galactica back there?
Or I don't think so.
It could just be my old eyes playing tricks on me.
Yeah, there's a lot of models back there. We've got the Enterprise and yeah, there's a lot up there. I don't think I have a Galactica right now.
All right.
Yeah, Darren, I saw those pics. It's great.
Anything else for you folks?
Any other questions you guys got before we log out of here?
Well, it's looking. Give them a couple of minutes to type, because if they type like me, it's going to take them a minute.
Yeah, I'm excited for the second edition drop. I'm excited to hopefully get to Gen Con. We'll see if that happens for sure.
That would stress me out so bad. I don't do big crowds very well. I mean, we've got a couple of local cons that I go to occasionally, and I think they top out at maybe about 8,000 members. Going to somewhere with 8 times that many.
This might surprise you, but I'm a little bit of a social butterfly. Everyone sent me pictures of their bookshelves now.
That's great. Post them on the Facebook group, guys. We love seeing that, just to spread the love some.
Daniel, I don't know how the licenses work for those other companies. We all have to submit our stuff, I think, to the same group of people who have to approve what we're doing first.
That said, Jim has made known those same people in licensing and approvals, they like it when the licensees interact.
Right. So if we say they love some of the IDW, they're big with that.
Yeah, they loved when we included the STO ships in Utopia, for instance.
Yeah. Licensing is this whole world that I'm still just starting to learn about, just starting to become familiar with as I'm exploring game design and whatnot.
It's a major headache.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question any better. I know that Paramount loves its licensees. We all produce awesome content and produce our own little universes for them. So I don't see this license going away for Star Trek Adventures for a while. Because I think that Paramount loves us so much. So
they it's been said many times, they like what we're doing. So
I mean, just look at how many other game systems out there that have as many books as Star Trek Adventures right now? You know what I mean? I think we're on 19 books or something like that, maybe 20.
Yeah, we've been going strong. We first released, I've
7
been working
years,
on this
almost 8. Yeah, almost 8 years.
Yeah,
I think we released 7 years ago, but I've been working on it for 8.
Yeah, I've been working on it since August of 16.
Yeah,
I had cause to go back and look and find out when I started for for some back office stuff. And it's like, yeah, I've been doing this since August of 16.
I mean, yeah, you've got the
And
big two like D&D and Pathfinder, who obviously produce a lot of stuff. But aside from that, I mean, I name another line that has 20 books. Like, it just, I don't think it's out there, and we're not gonna
licensed. You're not going to find very much, just because of. Let's see. If we have not exceeded FASA's tenure as a licensed RPG producer for Star Trek, we'll be there at the end of the year.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm
sure.
And we're still going strong.
Yeah, Traveler's got a ton, Darren.
But I mean, Traveler's been its own thing, and it's had many incarnations. Star Wars has had a couple of different art,
yeah, if you look at the 3 or the 4 Star Wars lines for that Edge is producing now, they probably have about 30 or 40 books.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
But I mean, the only other one is there are a few. The one that I've worked with is Shadowrun.
Yeah, Shadowrun has a ton.
35 years,
IP, right?
It's its own thing. It's been going for 35 years this year. Wow. Now I feel old.
Oh, Darren, hold on. I'm gonna be right back. Now that you said that, I've got something awesome. So my buddy sent me an email or a text the other day, and he said, "Hey, do you want these? I found these in my attic."
Oh, he did. He did.
Now, not only did he find these, but these are the books that we used in high school circa 95, 94, 95.
Good Lord.
Like the core rule book for 2nd edition. And of course,
oh, that's so cool.
We have
so cool.
Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising. I wish I had the 3rd book too. But yeah, he found these in his attic. I told him I'd pay him $10 a piece for them, and he said okay. So, but the exact books that we used in high school, which made it even cooler.
Oh, that is cool. It's the actual ones you used back in the day.
He said he doesn't remember ever buying them when he was in the Army. He said they must have been around since before that. And I was like, Dave, those have to be the books that we were looking at when we were supposed to be doing study hall.
Yeah, I got into trouble with that a few times with D&D and Gamma World when I was in high school.
Yep.
All right. Oh, wow. Well, Al, I've kept you here like an hour and a half, and I really appreciate you spending the time with me this evening. It's been a lot of fun. Everybody in the chat, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much for all the cool questions. Where can we find you, Al?
So I am GM_Admiral on just about everything you can find out there. And I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Twitch. I'm actually hopefully going to start a Twitch channel soon. And if you just type my name into DriveThruRPG, you'll see a ton of things pop up.
I've actually got a link in the description with a drive-through search for Al.
Yeah. If you like the 2D20 system, I highly recommend going to check out Sentience 2D20. It's just a step to the side from Star Trek Adventures. Uses pretty much the same system, except for your stats are your emotions, because you are playing a robot that has just gained sentience. So it's a really good book. Everybody that I've played with has really, really enjoyed it. So
I've enjoyed watching the actual plays. I haven't had a chance to play at any time, but it's been fun watching people enjoying the
And the book that I'm working on now currently is called Once Upon. It's a lighthearted fairy tale RPG that is using a system that I have written and created. So, pretty excited to get that out. The last month or so, I've been kind of putting it on the back burner because of Klingon War stuff. So hopefully in March I'll be able to finish that off.
Cool. All right.
Thank you, everybody in chat. That was fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. Tomorrow night, I am going to be doing another live stream with my friend Cody, who is a very casual Star Trek fan. He's just started playing Star Trek Adventures, and we're going to be doing a Q&A the same time tomorrow night on the 29th at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. I'd appreciate you come by, and you can throw questions at us. You'll get to see a couple of guys stumble through the rules, because I'll be honest with you, I've been working on this game for 8 years, and there's still stuff that I don't understand. And that doesn't even bring into, what's going to happen when 2E comes out. But so I'm going to be, hitting Cody up for things that would help him, and then we'll stumble through and figure it out. But if you want to come by and throw some questions at us, we'd sure appreciate it. Friday, it's not going to be live; it's going to be recorded. But I've got an interview. I'm going to be interviewing Jim Johnson. With what little we can get out of him about 2E. I've had, it's like ever since I've known, I've been saying, okay, we need to get you on the. Yeah, we'll get that done, Patrick, and we finally got the scheduling done. So I'm going to be talking to him. That's so we're going to record that on Friday night, and I'll edit it and probably get it up sometime this weekend. And yeah, this week this is my week for doing a lot of live streams, because I'm also going to be on Saturday night at 6 Central, 9 a.m. the next day Japan time, talking with Bill Barbado from Final Frontiersman. Again, if you guys want to come by, I'd be happy to see you. I'm sure we'd be happy to see some questions thrown out. I've got links in the description on where you can, if you haven't already, where you can pre-order Federation-Klingon War Tactical Campaign. I've got links where you can go look up Al's stuff on Drive-Thru RPG. I even got his YouTube channel on there. Yeah. So someday he'll record another video, but
Someday.
Yeah, in your copious unstructured free time. But Al, thanks for coming by. I had a great time tonight. I appreciate I appreciate your time. And
it's been a pleasure. I just love sitting here and talking games with everyone like that. I could just talk about different Trek games all day, or different game, any game. Like, you want to talk Shadowrun, we can talk about the merits of 4th edition versus 6th edition. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Back when there wasn't a limit on pools versus when there was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's a whole other can of worms I'm not going to get into here, because we don't have the time. I've already kept you for an hour and a half. So.
I figured that I would leave you on that so you can mull over it all night.
Yeah, really, it's nice. I'd love to get you on there, and we can talk some SR and cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you for coming by. If you're catching this on the replay, hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Live long and prosper, everybody. Good night.